It's 4 p.m. and we're bringing you the developing news and the stories behind the headlines. This is Storycon. I'm Patrick Paez.
And I'm Jovi Francisco. Thanks for joining us. Some stories we're watching this Tuesday, August 13. Comelec regional officers have served a subpoena against suspended Bamban Mayor Alice Go at her farm this morning. This is related to the complaint alleging misrepresentation in her certificate of candidacy. The embattled mayor was not in the said property. The Health Department logs an increase in the cases of leptospirosis in the country. From July 21 to August 3, the DOA said it recorded 255 new cases, 17% higher than the 217 cases logged in the previous weeks. Meanwhile, the DOH has reported a total of 136,161 dengue cases so far this year, 33% higher compared to the cases in the same period from last year.
And the Department of Agriculture has dismissed calls for a state of national calamity over the recent African swine fever outbreak. DA Chief Francisco Chu Laurel said that enhanced border controls, an emergency vaccination program, and increased indemnification measures are sufficient to manage the spread of ASF. Joining us today, Ana Marie Pamintuan, Editor-in-Chief of the Philippine Star and Storycon's resident political pundit, is not joining us today. Okay.
Sorry to the fans of Tito Ronald is not here, pero andito naman si Ma'am Ami tsaka ako.
Better. Oh.
Okay.
Better naman dito si...
Hi, Patrick and Jovi.
Hello, Ami. Ami, what do you have on the front page layout of the Philippine Star?
Sila nag-file na ng formal diplomatic protest over the flares, no? Pero ang report from China, nag-triple daw yata yung warships nila in the West Philippine Sea. Pero hindi naman natatakot yung armed forces natin, sabi nila. Yan daw mga flares na yan. Nag-flare up daw ang patriotism ng mga troops natin. Saka dadagdagan ko lang yung story kay Alice Go. Iniimbestigahan pa lang ng Comelec pero may order na ang ombudsman ordering na ipa-dismiss na daw siya. So I guess hindi ombudsman, kulang pa yung detalye namin pero I guess hindi siya ang magdi-dismiss. It will have to be the president ba yun? The president ang through the DILG.
Refresh our memory, no, Ami?
Yes.
The ombudsman, how does this work? There's a order for dismissal. Is it as good as dismissed? Ganun ba yan?
Ang alam ko kailangan idaan yan through the department and then it will need the approval of the president, hindi ba? Hindi pwedeng cabinet lang ba? Pwede. Saka iintayin pa natin yung abogado niya. I guess merong mga appeal kapag ganyan na may order. She's under suspension.
Right.
Pero hindi yata although ang pagkaalam ko, yung mga abogado niya are making manifestations on her behalf kahit sa anong venue na gusto siyang imbestigahan. So hindi pa malinaw yung I'm waiting for the details on this developing story.
And on this matter of the swarming of Chinese warships, they're being monitored on the West Philippine Sea. Is this it? Ami?
Nag-triple daw yung warship. Although, yun na nga yung initial report na dumadami na naman nga daw. Although hindi hinaharang, no, as part of, I guess, yung agreement natin na hindi pa natin alam hanggang ngayon yung exact details. Pero yun naman ang sinabi nila, nadagdagan, pero hindi hinaharang yung mga barko natin going to Ayungin, going to Ayungin. Dahil sinabi nga sa atin kahapon ni ASEC Malaya ng National Security Council, ang covered lang ng agreement is the resupply mission to Ayungin. Yung mga operations around the Scarborough Shoal, Panatag Shoal, na yung mga barko ng China nasa loob ng lagoon, yun ang kakailanganin pa daw ng panibagong agreement, di ba?
Ibang usapan daw yan pagdating dyan sa area na sa Scarborough Shoal. Yes, and that's the area where recently we saw Chinese Air Force jets parang using flares to sort of intimidate the Philippine Air Force aircraft in that area. So ganyan. But what's really more medyo revealing yung wala ka dito, Jovi, kahapon, yung interview natin kay ADG, Assistant Director General Jonathan Malaya ng National Security Council. Ang sabi niya, medyo revelation yan, ano, na monitor nila yung mga pro-China trolls, pro-China think tanks, pro-China influencers or individuals. And he was very categorical in saying that they are monitoring 3 areas specifically of concern. First, possible hacking of our election system. Second is payoffs to politicians and certain individuals. And the third issue, tinatawag nilang misinformation o a narrative that tends to support China in this issue on the West Philippine Sea.
Yung netizen na tinatawag. Yung netizens actually ina-out na yung mga na yan yung mga micro-influencers ang tawag nila pag nasa X or sa Twitter Ma'am Ami, sinasabi nila na ito parang tinatag na nila. So siguro kung ikaw sa grupo na sinasabi ni ADG Malaya, madali nila mahanap kasi in-out na ng mga users kung sino-sino itong mga ito.
Parang monitoring, I don't know how that will be, what sort of enforcement they can do about that. But it's quite alarming. Sinasabi there might be the risk of influencing the results of our elections in 2025, which is just a few months away, Ami. Yun.
Oo nga, nagko-coordinate na nga daw sila with the COMELEC, di ba?
Right.
Dahil nga, precisely because of those problems, medyo mahirap, lalo ngayon, ang daming deepfakes, ang daming AI. And nakita naman natin, even in 2022, active na yan So, minomonitor natin, of course, we all know naman kung sino yung mga kandidato na sa tingin natin, medyo sympathetic to China, and people are thinking, baka suportahan ng China, whether financial or in any other way, itong mga kandidato na to para hindi naman laging talo sila, Medyo, siyempre gusto din nila love din sila ng mga Pilipino.
Ang accusation ng mga users na nakaka-observe nung activities ng ilang mga influencers sa social media ay yun nga na baka merong money going around or involved pwedeng doon sa narrative na pinapakalat nila. And ang uso nga sa Twitter, Ma'am Ami, or sa X ay yung post tas ubura agad para daw hindi ma-trace, pero actually mabilis ang mga users.
Screen cap agad.
Screen grab agad yan. Tapos kung hindi man nila ma-link yung mismo nagsulat, they will post it. So authorities can easily trace it.
When you talk about possible interference in the election system itself, possible hacking, it becomes really, really concerning, di ba, Ami? In the U.S. elections, for example, we've heard about Russian interference in the elections that resulted in the win of President Trump back then in 2016. Now we're seeing a similar scenario being bandied about here in the Philippine elections. This is the first time, I guess, na I know the Philippine elections is caught between geopolitics.
Yes.
Diba? Geopolitics rearing its ugly head in Philippine elections. Yun.
Ang mahirap bantayan yung galaw ng financial. Kasi lalo ngayon, ewan ko kung paano gagawin nila kasi there are also links na tinitingnan, especially ng Senate, between POGOs and yun na nga, campaign financing for certain candidates na sympathetic to China. So, ewan natin ngayon kung saan padadaanin yan dahil sinasara na nga yung mga POGOs. In fact, that's one of the aspects they were exploring sa pag-iimbestiga kay Alice Guo, di ba? Na napakalaki kasi ng pera sa POGO.
Tahi-tahi na yan.
Napaka-opaque ng mga campaign finance laws natin and regulations. Napakadaling magbigay sa mga kandidato from these activities. So titingnan natin, yan ang binabantayan ngayon, both National Security Council, pati ng PNP, Anti-Cybercrime Group. Nagbabantay na rin sila. And I guess the ICT kasama na yan. So tinitingnan nila yan kung saan, medyo napakahirap kasi trace, high-tech na high-tech. Saka may AI pa ngayon. So yan yung mga binabantay natin. Tingnan natin, baka related din yan sa case ni Alice Go, of course. Di ba?
Normally, Ami, Jovi, we hear from the National Security Council when it comes to external threats to the country, geopolitics and all that. But yesterday, it's quite a revelation, Joby, na ang NEC din pala is keeping a watchful eye on domestic
Internal,
developments.
yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
domestic
Exactly.
developments. So this is very, very revealing na ganyan ang ano ng NEC nga. I guess this was in response, Ami, to your question yesterday, whether the NEC is also alarmed at recent political developments inside the country.
Yes.
And that's how they answered it, na ang minomonitor talaga nila is yung itong mga pro-China narrative. But
Yes.
you know, by extension, I guess, Ami, the elephant in the room here is alam naman natin na yung local politicians are also divided on this matter.
Yes.
Our politics is also divided on this matter. We have several politicians who are very vocal for one side or the other, and yun. So may ganon. Also have in a while the ICC deputy to counsel to ICC
Yeah.
Attorney Conti. In a while,
We're
just
waiting for
to
that
go online.
interview.
Maybe she can give us more
Nakita ko
details
na
and
siya.
more information in this
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
On
Wala
kung
pa ba?
kamusta na.
Yeah. Nakikita na ni Ma'am Ami. Pero they're setting it up, Ma'am
Yes.
Ami. No? So later we'll be asking her questions about itong mga developments.
Ayan.
We have been trying to get former Senator Antonio Trillanes also to help give us more information on
Yes.
this matter, because it's been we understand he's been quite active in pursuing this case from the start, from day one.
Yeah.
Meaning to say, from the time when Duterte was still in power. But I think I understand he's not in the country right now.
Kaya parang nibago nga
But that
tayo
might
sa
explain where he is.
invitation,
No? Pero he has been begging off from being interviewed. Ami, baka malay natin. Baka
Baka may nangyayari na.
Baka may
oo.
nangyayari na.
Baka
Alam,
may
alamin na
nangyayari.
natin.
Oo.
Patrick, ayan na.
Oo. Kasi normal si Senator Trillanes,
Yes.
mapagbigay
Yes,
sa mga
agad.
request
Yeah,
natin
yes,
na
agad.
ma-interview siya. Okay.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Introduce our guest.
Let's bring
Joby.
in our guest for the day na, yun nga, nakita na ni Ma'am Ami kanina dyan sa kanilang Zoom room. She's the ICC Assistant to Counsel. Wala pong iba kundi si Attorney Conti. Magandang hapon, Attorney.
Yes, good
Ay,
afternoon
attorney.
po.
Ma'am Ami will give you the first question.
Well, kukumustahin lang namin kung ano na yung latest kasi marami nang nag-aalala ngayon especially Senator Ronald De La Rosa na mukhang matutuloy na yung arrest nila if it's coerced through the Interpol. And nagrereklamo nga sila na bakit ganon, na supposedly merong policy ang gobyerno not to cooperate with the ICC. Can you brief us kung ano na yung latest dito sa arrest warrant?
Well, the latest still is confidential ang proceedings patungkol sa arrest warrant and even dun sa execution ng arrest warrant. As far as we know, there has been communication between the Philippine government and the ICC. Yun na rin yung sinabi ni Senator Trillanes na there are suspects pero wala pang arrest warrant na issue or ini-implement, and there could be a difference. Pwede kasing meron ng arrest warrant na pending pero hindi pa lang ini-implement. And in some of the cases we've seen, the announcement of the warrant of arrest or even the announcement that these people have been arrested comes only after the arrest. So crucial kasi yung moment na may malalaman mo tapos tatakas ka. So to minimize the opportunity to subvert the processes, in most cases, the proceedings are confidential and only after the arrest is it announced na
Okay.
meron ng warrant at nahuli na sila.
Attorney Conti, this thing that you mentioned, the communication between the Philippine government and the ICC, should we take this as a departure from a previous position that, the Philippines not being a member of ICC won't coordinate with the ICC? Nagbago na ba yung posisyon ng gobyerno?
Right now, I don't see the government being compromised in a sense that they have not actually cooperated on anything. In fact, the letter comes from the ICC, yung nakita natin, the letter comes from the ICC and it's addressed to the Philippine government. Wala siyang tugon. Walang letter na galing sa Pilipinas.
Okay.
Ang meron lang tayo ay statement ni Solicitor General Guevara at ni DOJ Secretary Remulla. Yun lang yung pinahawakan nila na wala naman daw silang gagawin. Kaya right now, wala pang contradiction. Kaya itong si Senator Bato,
Okay.
baka may iba siyang nararamdaman.
Okay. What did the ICC hope to get out of this communicating or sending a letter to the Philippine government, to the Marcos administration? What were they asking for? Certain assistance, knowing full well naman ang position ng gobyerno is, we're not a member of ICC, we won't cooperate. So, ano yung purpose ng letter na yun?
Well, one, it's a matter pro forma. It's a matter of policy, of course, that you communicate with the state, especially kahit hindi ka member state, especially if the suspects or the possible subjects of a warrant of arrest, magkaiba pa yun, yung suspect medyo lighter than a warrant of arrest, kung nasaan sila. So, they are obliged to inform the states where these people are. Nagkataon na Pilipinas yon, kahit hindi tayo miyembro ng ICC, i-update kumbaga tayo ng ICC kasi nandito yung hinahanap.
Okay.
Of course, the ICC will press at every stage of the proceeding na, itong nangyayari, itong kung sakasakaling may hingin kami. Even the warrant of arrest, it is only, I mentioned it's confidential, but not entirely. It is communicated, it has to be communicated to the member state or the state where these persons are. Okay. So right now, if there is anyone who can confirm anything on record, it could be the ICC or the Philippine government.
Go ahead.
Second, I see this as a warning. It's a warning for these persons, and it is up to the government, Philippine government, to communicate it to the 5 persons na suspect na sila. And thirdly, essentially it's an invitation to cooperate or to talk with the ICC at the minimum to prepare for possible, ang hirap sabihin na defense, no? Kasi baka ma-defensive, pero possible explanation of what happened.
Iyahabol ko lang kay Attorney Conti yung doon sa kanya sinabi kayo na hindi niya alam yung nadarama ni Senator Bato. Pero dadagdag ko lang na yun nakahapon sa kanyang privilege speech ay talagang sinabi niya doon na he was pushing for sana gawin na rin daw magkaroon ng ban or gawing illegal yung pakipag-usap ng mga opisyal natin sa kanino man from the ICC. So ito mga ganitong mga pronouncements from him at saka ganitong mga reaction from him, Attorney Cody, talaga, is this parang telling na of what will be happening very, very soon?
Yes, it could be because he is receiving some signals or communications either from the ICC or the Philippine government about the proceedings. Meron na talaga kasing sa investigation, meron na kasi talagang pag-alam kung sino ang most responsible, and para malaman yun, aalamin kung sino ang mga responsible. Kumbaga, sinong may kasalanan. Saka lang nila sisilipin, ito ang tututukan natin. Yung move na magkaroon ng batas, similar yan sa US, may ganyan din ginawa yung mga US senators, mga kakampito na sa Republican Party, kakampi ni Donald Trump. Ginawa din nila yon na parang knee-jerk reaction sa pagproteksyon ng Israeli politicians. So, wala pa namang usad yon. Pero sa tingin ko, very political nang gagawin niya na circumstantial, lalo na ang kumbaga babanggain niya or ang pakikialaman niya ay isang international court which has 124 member states.
Okay.
Would you be aware if the government is coordinating in any way with the international police, criminal police organization? Kasi yun ang sabi na yung whatever arrest warrant will be sent here, will be coursed through the Interpol.
Actually, yes, he could be aware that the Philippine government is cooperating, quote-unquote, or at the minimum, communicating, yun nga, no? And that's up to him. He might have other information not available to us kasi nga ang kakausapin talaga ng ICC ay yung suspect o kaya yung may isyuhan na nga ng warrant of arrest and the state. As to Senator Bato's kumbaga sources, yun lang, hindi ko sigurado kung bawat kibot, bawat nagsasalita na kung sino ay sumasagot siya o kaya hindi niya verify yung sources niya. Pero it's very interesting how he reacts to things.
Okay, Attorney
Or
Conti,
may
you
mga
said...
stories ngayon about si Romeo Caramat might turn or is being invited to turn state witness. Depende kung sino yung nagsasabi ng istorya. You know the circumstances kung bakit siya nasama. You think he is qualified to turn witness?
Yes.
Si General Romeo Caramat.
Yes po. Karamat has been involved in several cases. And the fact that he led several one-time, big-time operations, so yun yung tinutukoy sa kanya eh. At yun yung sinisilip ng ICC, leads us to the possibility that he knows something. To be a state witness, ang tawag nila doon ay insider witness, requires a great deal of information that he could provide. Hindi ka pwedeng, kumbaga, basta-basta na, ay, parang alam ko nga po yan. Dapat alam ko po yan. So the certainty of his information and of his turning witness, one thing that the court will not kumbaga do with is yung turnaboutism, yung babalik na rin. Marami sa atin yan. Recantations are very, quite common in the court, pero they frown on it when they present a witness before the court, as in sigurado sila sa witness. And when we say witness, yung pwede kasing nasa video lang, pwede kung maraming alam si Karamat, at kung talagang sigurado siya sa sasabihin niya, posibleng siya pa yung mag-witness on the stand in person.
Okay,
At
Attorney
importante
Conti.
yan dahil high enough siya, mataas ang kanyang posisyon, na maaring magdawit dun sa mataas, mag-connect dun sa taas na nag-utos at dun sa gumawa na nasa baba.
Attorney Conti, is the ICC, or at least your part, the prosecutors, no, are they interested in Senator Bato de la Rosa as an insider witness?
Yeah.
Okay. Just to clarify, I'm with the victims.
Okay.
Sa ICC, medyo iba yung roles dito. The prosecutors team is led by the OTP. And then the victims have their own team. We can cooperate with the Office of the Prosecutor, but this is an entirely independent, parang legal representation for the victims. But then to answer your question, I would think so, yes. They are very interested in Senator De La Rosa, because he is the only one who has signed a document related to this war on drugs na directly implicating or including the Philippine government, the Philippine National Police in drugs operations. Ito yung Command Memorandum Circular na Oplan Double Barrel. Later on, there was of course Reloaded, Alpha, and ngayon nga yung finale. Iba-iba na yung pumirma nun. Kung napansin nyo, maski si Albayalde, na dawit, sabihin na natin. Kasi I would think na isa din siya sa pumirma. By the way, yung susunod na mga versions nung Oplan Double Barrel, hindi na ni-release. Hinihintay nga namin sa House of Representatives committee hearings, na ipakita itong documents nila. And it would be interesting kung kaninong pirma yung nandoon.
Have they relayed their interest to Senator Bato de la Rosa? Has it been communicated na baka pwede ka mag-witness? May ganun ba?
No, I don't know about that. It has to be Senator Bato to confirm that. But in any case, Senator Bato de la Rosa as a witness against who? That will be interesting because right now I see him as well as someone who is most responsible for the killings. Yung most responsible kasi hindi naman isa lang yan, no? Isang grupo. At kung meron man na, kumbaga, pinaka-masisisi tungkol sa patayan, of course, there would be President Duterte. Pero paano niya magagawa yon? Sa pamamagitan ng police, at yan ay sa pamamagitan ni Senator De La Rosa. Kung sa rules natin sa pag-state witness, baka hindi siya ma-qualify.
Yeah.
Kaya dito sa
Hindi siya
pagiging
pwede.
insider witness, I would say unlikely. That he will be called
Correct me if
to
I'm wrong,
witness.
Attorney Conti, but my understanding is normally the ICC brings to trial yung pinaka-top leader. I mean, we saw this in the case of Serbia, Milosevic. I think he is the top leader. They were not interested in going down the line. I think also in Sudan, in the genocide in Sudan and other countries. So, could it be the same in the Philippines that, makuha mo lang yung yung top leader noon, okay na yun.
Yes. But again, the word that they use is parang most responsible or those who bear the greatest responsibility. It doesn't mean one person. In the case of President Duterte nga, what ties him to the war on drugs, it's his statements, it's his policy pronouncements. But who implemented that? It was Senator De La Rosa with the Philippine National Police. So, given the signals from the Office of the Prosecutor, I would say that there are at least two persons thought to be most responsible for the killings.
So parang walang ma-offer na salbabida for
Bato.
for Bato if ever.
Oo kasi pag sinabi na ang isang defense dyan, ng, kunyari nung bumarel, sumusunod lang ako sa utos.
Okay.
Kaninong utos? Di sa papel po, sabi ng presidente, and pangalawa po, merong Oplan double barrel. Sinong pumirma ng Oplan double barrel? Si Senator De La Rosa. At saka, I'd like to also point out that the ICC is looking at the killings in Davao, where Senator De La Rosa was chief of police prior to assuming the entire national chieftain. Kaya, crucial also that how the killings in Davao have been addressed can be shown in the killings that occurred nationwide. So, I would say unlikely that he would be, kumbaga, exculpated or called upon as a parang quote-unquote state witness. Against who? Laging ganon.
Or pag insider witness ka, ano ka ba yun? Hindi ka na makakasuhan. Is that one of the conditions kung ganon? In the ICC, ha?
In the ICC, not exactly. Kasi meron ding insider witness na hindi naman talaga kakasuhan per se. Kunyari, low-ranking police, tapos gusto niyang magkwento kung anong nangyayari. Hindi naman talaga siya makakasuhan sa ICC. There have been several cases that parang the top person, kumbaga, has said na, sige, babaliktad ako, or one of the top persons, babaliktad ako. The immunity, quote-unquote, was it a different deal as outside of the kumbaga turning witness against the other. Hindi siya automatic, kumbaga. It has to be brokered. Kaya for Senator De La Rosa, he really has to kumbaga lay down his cards. Ano ang alam niya? At ano ang up to what extent is he willing to push for this possible cooperation with the ICC. But ngayon yata ang offer niya is not really to be a witness, no, but to only parang give a statement before the ICC because he still does not recognize the jurisdiction of the ICC. So I find that rather weird na parang he's willing to speak to the investigators, to be interviewed, but he has said that he's not willing to be a witness or to cooperate in the proceedings or in trial. Kaya kailangan niyang to sit down, breathe, relax, and to really understand what the process is.
Attorney,
Kasi General Karamat, pwede kaya siyang immunity? Can he get immunity kung sakaling mag-witness siya?
I would say at this point, without kumbaga divulging or looking at the evidence of the Office of the Prosecutor, he could be offered not exactly immunity but some sort of deal kumbaga para mag-testify because he has a little high up kasi siya right now nasa Davao yata siya naka-assign. Pero nung
Northern Luzon.
Northern Luzon ngayon.
Yes.
Okay. So yung position niya, I think he was regional chief at one point.
Yes.
It is high enough in the ladder pero low enough na wala siyang sariling pagpapasya, kumbaga. It would be up to the ICC to determine kung anong mga acts ang ipipin sa kanya. So kung yung 2018 one-time big-time operations sa kanya idadawit, kumbaga sa kanya ipipin, then posibleng magkaroon ng usapan tungkol sa immunity. Pero kung hindi naman yun ang hahabulin at ibang mga incident ang hahabulin, kumbaga sa ibang lugar, edi baka. Kaya lang, nahirapan ako ngayon sa sitwasyon nila kasi yung determination sa kanila, suspects eh. And from
Yes.
what that feels, it feels as if they had enough power or authority to determine when and where the killings will happen.
Okay, Joby? Well, anyway, I meant to ask Attorney Conti, you know, an arrest warrant, if ever, would remain most likely confidential, right? To avoid flee by the accused. So, theoretically, there could be an arrest warrant already at this very moment.
We just don't know.
Yes, actually. Ito lang, one of the recent incidents that the ICC announced the arrest warrant was when they had no opportunity
Chance, yeah.
or they had no hope of implementing the arrest warrants. And these were the
Putin.
warrants against heads of state of Russia and Israel.
Right.
Actually, sa Israel nga, para mag-a-apply pa lang kami. Yung sa Russia, na-issue na. Ang nakikita namin and ang sinabi na rin naman ng prosecutor, ito kasi will serve as a deterrent because in their circumstances, there is ongoing conflict. So nagaganap pa yung kumbaga krimen sa kanila at itong warrant of arrest sana makatulong para tumigil sila. Dito sa atin medyo ang tingin ng ICC kasi medyo humupa na, hindi na masyadong makapangyarihan yung mga gumagawa nito. Palagay ko hindi muna nila i-announce, lalo na dadamahin muna nila kung ano ba to, may chance ba kaming mahuli to o wala. Kung wala, di saka namin, i-announce na lang namin as a deterrent. Pero kung may chance kaming mahuli to, yes, you are correct. There could already be a warrant and they're finding a way to implement it.
Okay, Attorney Conti, how would it be implemented given, number one, that
We're not
members of the ICC, number two, that the official policy of this administration is not to cooperate, number three, at the same time, we're hearing about, at the same time, we're members of Interpol. So, how is it going to happen? If
Simply
theoretically,
put,
legally?
yes. Simply put, it's going to be the Philippine National Police to implement the arrest warrant. Yun lang. Kasi maski whether member state tayo o hindi, police lang ang pwedeng humuli in behalf of the ICC. Police nung lugar kung nasaan yung taong ito. Okay? There are several...
Under what responsibility or obligation does the PNP have to effect or carry out an arrest?
Yeah, and so that's the political portion, kumbaga. Legally, the PNP answers to the president. The chief of, essentially, siya yung commander-in-chief ba? Sa AFP. No, but,
AFP.
yeah, but he's the one in charge of the Philippine National Police and he can say, he can order them to do something. And if there is no legal impediment or there is a legal motivation for the police to acknowledge a warrant of arrest, then pwede yun. At yun na yung pwedeng, one, that it was coursed through the Interpol and there is a request from a fellow member of the Interpol to implement the warrant. At kung magkaroon ng red notice na tinatawag, hindi pwedeng mag-utos ang Interpol ng arrest. Only tribunal, and it would be probably the ICC. Second, it could be by a request from another government direct to the president. Thirdly, we're seeing it could also be as a matter of extradition request or proceeding na parang palitan tayo ng ng detainee. So if a member state of the ICC requests for a Filipino person who is wanted by the ICC, requests for an exchange of prisoners, baka pwede yun. Recently, may mga nangyayaring ganyan na, kumbaga, quote-unquote, exchange of prisoners.
Ganon.
Tony, how are the relatives of the victims feeling at this point? I'm asking this kasi 3 of those 5 suspects are still in government. Of course, si General Karamat and Brigadier General Eliasar Mata is the head of the PNP Drug Enforcement Group. At si Edilberto Leonardo is a commissioner of the National Police Commission, anong nararamdaman ngayon ng mga victims? Of course, there's progress kasi may suspects na tayo and there is a possibility that someone might
arrest,
actually get arrested. Pero nararamdaman nila ngayon?
They're hopeful, and with their participation in the House of Representatives hearings, so the Human Rights Committee has convened hearings on this matter. And I think moving forward, itong August 16 yata, the Quad Committee will be looking at so many things, POGO, etc., including the war on drugs. They're hopeful that in some way magkaroon ng enlightenment. Actually, there's two things to this: truth and accountability. Truth, what really happened? Ano ba, inutos ba to? Ano ba tong reward? Sinong yumaman dito? Sinong gumanansya? And accountability, kailangan managot kung sino yung may kasalanan. In some cases, we've seen cases in court with convictions, edi may naparusahan. Pero parang kulang eh. And even in the hearings, this was surfaced. Parang kulang kasi yung nag-utos, yung gumawa ng polisiya, nakakalusot, na parang naiiwan yung footmen, yung soldiers on the ground na, kasi binaril niya ako, naiiwan siya na individual incidents. Para sa kanila, maniniwala ba kami na may 6,252 at least na police operations na kung saan may namatay, binaril niya kasi ako kaya binaril ko din siya. Ganon, pare-pareho ng script. Masyadong too much of a coincidence. Kaya kailangan ang silipin dito ay yung policy.
Okay, thank you for joining the Storycon ICC Assistant of Counsel, Attorney Cristina Conti.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney.
And you're watching Storycon on One News. We just need to take a break and we'll be right back.
This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group. Welcome back to the Story Conference. I'm Patrick Paez.
And I'm Joey Francisco, and still with us, aming pamituan of the Philippine Star. At kung hinahanap niyo si Tito Ronald, bukas nandito siya. Okay? In about 2 hours.
Okay, maraming salamat. Thanks for joining the Storycon today. Aming pamintuan, Editor-in-Chief of the Philippine Star.
Thanks, Ma'am Abby. Join us again tomorrow
Thank you.
at 4 p.m. for the Storycon. I'm Joey Francisco.
I'm Patrick Paez. We are One News, all sides, all the time. This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group.